This is the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com, hosted by Jerry and Mark, your one-stop shop for all horrible movie reviews. From the latest blockbusters and independent films to classics, let Mark and Jerry convince you the world is a dangerous place, though often good for a laugh. Now come and listen to the Horror Movie Show, if you dare.
Hello folks, Jerry here.
And Mark.
Bringing you another episode of the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com.
What happened to my voice?
Uh-oh.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. and we're also on the Crypt, Eli Roth's mobile app, picking up speed.
Hopefully more speed as time goes.
Well, the word is the Android launch will be by end of summer, and another big launch for it, sort of a relaunch for it by the end of summer.
Are they going to be redesigning it? There's going to be...
Well, work is ongoing. It just continues to evolve.
So is it getting better? I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it because I don't have any iPods or iPhones or iPads or whatever.
See, you should You should be doing that. You should be I don't know, looking over the shoulder of people on SkyTrain. Tell them to go to fearthecrypt.com.
Yeah. Could you download this app for me? I want to watch something.
Come on, we're going to be on the SkyTrain for 15 minutes here. Get on with it. So we got a whole bunch of movies to talk about. Some of them new, some of them old. But I wanted to start by thanking a listener in Britain, Andy. His name is known as Retro Asylum.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Now, Mark hasn't seen any of these, but
because it's a surprise to me.
It's a surprise to Mark, but I've been quietly watching them. And one of the series recommended, actually, this was cousin Mike. Hey, Mike, who recommended this show. And the last episode of the second season is going to be on this Sunday, so I'm looking forward to seeing how
Are you going to tell us what it's called?
Wraps up. It's called In the Flesh. It takes place sometime after what the people refer to as the Rising. The Rising being the night that zombies came crawling up out of the ground.
I thought you meant the rising of the 1%.
Yeah. No, it's not. The series is very much an allegory. It could be about gay rights. It could be about minority rights. It could even be about religious rights, because there's a faction among the risen. They're being treated. The scientists came up with a way to stop the mania, what they call being rabid. And so the zombies, they still look like zombies, but they've calmed right down.
Oh, and they don't want to eat your brain.
No, and they need a shot once a day, but that keeps them
normal.
Yeah.
So they're still dead.
But they look hideous. Well, what they're suffering from is called partially deceased syndrome, PDS.
Just partially.
Partially deceased syndrome, yeah. So the main character is a young fellow, Kieran, and when we meet him in the first episode, and I'll tell you, the second season just wrapping up, the first season was 3-hour-long episodes, the second season is 6-hour-long episodes. And this is a BBC America co-production. So
right.
It's quality.
Yeah.
And entirely British, which I like, because it makes a change from most of the movies that we watch, which are...
Yeah, and plus 90% of the television shows these days have something to do with the occult.
Yes, yeah. Zombies, occult.
Either that or you're a criminal.
That's right, yeah.
It's one of the two.
Yeah, and often both. So I'm going to wait until Mark has seen this series before I talk about it.
Did you watch the whole series?
In depth. No, like I say, one more episode for the second season. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yes,
but
I mean...
I've watched everything up to this point.
Oh, so you've watched the 2 seasons.
I, what do they call that?
God, binge-watched.
Binge-watched it. Yeah, I loved it. And the nice thing about this is it's really getting me through the Walking Dead withdrawal that I've been suffering.
Well, that's because you don't watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah, what? That has zombies?
Oh, no.
I need zombies, man.
No, not zombies, but as for thrilling episodes,
Right.
this season has been really good for Games of Thrones.
Lots of nudity.
No, not as much as the first season,
right.
But a lot more action.
Oh, good.
A lot of people are getting killed and poisoned.
But one day I might catch up with that, but I just don't have time to watch that series too.
Yeah, well, it is a great series.
Good.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Good. Okay, well, I'd really recommend In the Flesh. And as I say, if you can catch up before Sunday, the last episode is going to be broadcast.
It's not like somebody's going to walk up to you on the street and say, "Hey, you know what happened?"
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I hadn't even heard of it until my darling Trixie's
I think
cousin
getting the first season and the second season and watching them continuously will be easy thing to do. It's
a long day though, 9 hours.
Yeah,
and solid hours too.
Mm-hmm. It's not like watching 9 movies though.
No. No, at least you remember the characters. And I just love it, too. I obviously, I can't say what's going to happen, but what has happened up to this point, but big developments. The English really, I like their take
Is it
on
black
zombies.
comedy?
No.
It's not comedy?
No, it's deadly serious.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's
that's sad.
Serious.
I was hoping it would be a little comedy.
No, it's like The Walking Dead. It's grim. It's a grim world. And as I started to say there's a lot of politics involved because those who have PDS, many of them see themselves in a sort of mystical way, that they've got biblical quotes to back them up, that those who have been raised from the dead will be like angels from heaven. So they see themselves as being superior to human beings. I mean, they don't feel pain. They can't be killed again.
Do they sleep?
Short of their heads being destroyed, they can't be killed. Yeah, they do sleep. Well, the drug makes them more or less human, but they don't have feelings like, they don't suffer pain. But they have all the emotions and stuff like that.
Oh, they do have greed then.
Yeah.
That's too bad. Greed is the worst.
Yeah, no, that really hasn't entered into it, except personal ambition and stuff like that.
Are these the masses that have risen, or is it the elite that have risen?
No. The way they work, and they have their own rules in this. All the zombies, and they use the word zombie occasionally, but all the zombies came up in one night. And if they bite you, you don't become a zombie. You just die. Or you can be treated. But most everybody who didn't get the syndrome, who was alive on the night that it happened, most everybody lost people, And so there's great bitterness and a great divide between the living and partially deceased. And it's about, Kieran coming back to his family, his mom, his dad, his sister, his little sister, who is technically older than he is because he was dead for a while.
Okay.
And his sister.
So it wasn't freshly killed bodies that came back.
No, it was just
all sorts of people.
Yeah, it was just the people who were in the grave that.
So if the Americans redo this, Abraham Lincoln would be raising from the grave.
Well, you'd have to be in some sort of shape, I suppose. Yeah, there is some touches of black comedy in it. Of course, there's one family in which the mother-in-law is a PDS. And she was probably horrible before she came back. And now she's this hideous-looking monster sitting on the couch. I want another cup of tea. You just want to cut her head off.
And you can't kill her.
Well, there seems to be sort of a nether region. Like, the authorities really don't worry too much if a PDS sufferer is killed. And they do like brains. When the PDS religious nut types get together, they have like little snacks, and they eat sheep's brains.
Oh, I can imagine.
Fresh sheep's
Monkey brains.
Well, they can get sheep's brains. So, but they have like little snack of sheep brains, and they all get quite high, which is funny. That's why they hungered for human brains.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Why eat brains if you didn't have to?
Yeah, exactly.
If there wasn't some payoff.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get on to some regular movies. This, I'm sure, will make my top 10 list for the year. Oculus. Technically, it's a 2013 movie, directed by Mike Flanagan, written by Flanagan and Jeff Howard. It stars Karen Gillan as Kaylee Russell, Brenton Thwaites as Tim Russell, her little brother. Katie Sackhoff is Marie Russell, the mum, and Rory Cochrane is the father, Alan Russell. Annalise Basso plays young Kaylee, Garrett Ryan plays young Tim, and Miguel Sandoval, you might remember him as the cockfighter from Seinfeld. He plays Dr. Graham. Little Jerry Seinfeld.
Okay.
He was on about chickens.
Okay. Why do you like this so much?
I thought it was a very entertaining movie. The notion of this movie is that this 10-year-old boy and his 12-year-old sister moved into this house with their mom and dad, and the dad had bought an antique mirror, and this antique mirror caused all kinds of evil happenings.
I believe it was the mother that bought it, because she wanted to dress up the place, and he didn't care. He liked IKEA.
Yeah. In any case, it's in the dad's office, and he's the first to really be seduced by...
I was going to say coerced, but yeah.
He's seduced by the demon. Well, he's literally seduced.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There is a woman.
A female demon of some kind. And then the mom is also ruined by it. And the kids, to defend themselves. I don't think I'm giving anything away here.
I think you go in a very linear timeline where the movie is not shown to you in linear time.
But we find out at the beginning why the son, who's now turning 21 years old, and being released from a mental institution to save his own life and his sister's life, killed the father.
Yeah, that's all we know at that.
And what we see is what drove him to have to shoot his father and the mother's death.
Yeah, so the movie jumps back and forth between the past and the present, and sometimes a mixture of both.
Yeah.
Where the older kids are with the younger kids and are the parents.
They use a similar idea to, say, The Others. It's been done lots of times. Or that movie we just saw with Abigail Breslin. Was that Haunted?
Yeah.
I think. Where the ghosts seen are other people who lived in the house and maybe are alive and you're the ghost, that sort of thing. So sometimes the ghosts that the children are seeing are themselves later on back in the house, and sometimes the older people are seeing themselves as children, as ghosts. So it's sort of an interdimensional
thing happening.
And there's also just plain ghosts.
Yeah, I enjoyed the way it was told. The story was told. It was a mix mash of all sorts of things. There was only one thing I didn't really like about this movie, and that was the fact that you didn't know what was real and what wasn't, because this spirit could manipulate real things. It could events could change.
It's like the
you couldn't trust what you were seeing.
Like the John Cusack movie about the hotel room.
Yeah.
And everything that happens to him takes place in an hour.
Yeah.
But he has no idea, and it feels like it's been days that he's locked in that horrible room.
Anyway, so it gets to the point where you don't know what reality is anymore. And to me...
And neither do they.
Yeah. But that's the problem. That's the problem. The house is going to win. And I say the house as in the spirit.
Right. The mirror.
The mirror is going to win no matter what, because it can manipulate reality. And it's just way too powerful. There's a no-win situation here, and I didn't like that.
One of the things that I really liked about this is that certainly the first half of the movie, the big sister has decided, and she's drug her brother, who doesn't initially want to be there, but she's dragged him into the house in front of the mirror again. And he's certifiably sane. And she is still, of course, believing that the mirror is evil.
And she's right.
And she wants to prove it. So she's got video set up. She's got an anchor tied to the roof that every hour is going to swing down and smash the mirror unless one of them physically resets it. So that's her fail-safe device to destroy the mirror. And it goes on and on like that. And every single thing that she says about the magical qualities of the mirror, every single one of them, the brother refutes.
Yeah.
And he manages to hold her so at bay with his logical, sensible arguments that it isn't until halfway through the movie she is practically convinced
that she's wrong.
And it is madness, and they're going to give up, and then things start turning.
Yeah.
And it held me on the edge of my seat. I really, really liked this movie.
Like I said, I liked it as well, except for the fact that I just felt that the entity was way too powerful.
Well, it is, but I didn't mind that, because why wouldn't it be? I
mean, I guessed at how things were going to go.
Yeah, well, they intentionally telegraph a lot of those things.
Yeah, and the thing is that I am going, geez, they didn't stand a chance.
Well, I don't know. They are manipulated. Of course they're manipulated. They're little touches.
And the fact is that at the very end, it's like they have all this videotape
right
hanging around.
Yeah.
and the police don't know what happened.
Right.
They only look at that one little clip at the end.
Right.
I'm sorry. There's a lot of stuff to look through before you determine who's guilty here.
I think in the sequel, and there will be a sequel, they'll probably get more into that. But the nice thing is that while there are elements of the found film footage movie in this, that isn't what this is. It's a regular movie. There happen to be a lot of cameras set up.
Well, yeah, they're trying to document it. Yeah. I love it where you have all these monitors and something's happening in front of it and the monitors are showing something completely different. Yeah. And it's like, whoa. Okay. But that's what I meant by too powerful.
Right.
It's like, how can an entity modify visual stuff, a physical camera?
Yeah. But it's nice because they test the limits of how far the mirror can manipulate them. One half of the living room, they're fine. But as soon as you walk toward the kitchen, bang, you're back in the demonic world.
Well, not really the demonic world. It's just an altered reality, I would think.
Be damned haunted.
And I thought it was really well how she had planned this from day one. She wanted to prove...
She's been working on it since she was 12.
Yeah. She wanted to prove that her brother was justified in what he did and that her brother was not crazy.
And neither was the father and neither was the mother. Yeah. That they were taken over by this evil entity.
And she had all sorts of historical documents documenting the history of the...
I thought that was fascinating.
Of the mirror. Yeah.
And again, it's very reminiscent of Cusack's 1408.
Yeah.
Because he does that, right? At least Samuel L. Jackson does that. It gives him all the history of all the people who've died in the room. Yeah. Not just the gory murderers and suicides, but all the people who died of supposedly natural causes, like drowning in the bathtub.
Right. Oculus, well worth seeing.
Yeah. One of the best movies I've seen this year.
Well, I can't say that for myself, but at the same time I did enjoy it.
Good. We got another new movie. This is an independent movie. It's called The Hanover House, directed by Corey Norman. This is his first feature. Co-written by Corey Norman and Haley Norman. Stars Brian Chamberlain as Robert Foster, Casey Turner as his wife, Shannon, Ann Bobby as Martha Robson, Daniel Knoll as Jim Foster, and David J. Schaefer as Uncle Fred.
Right.
Yeah.
Good old Uncle Fred.
Good old... There's every movie should have an Uncle Fred.
Oh, but not your uncle.
No.
You don't want him as your uncle.
That's Uncle F. Art. Yeah. Frederick Arthur, known as F. Art. Yeah. So we've got a couple, and the husband's father has died. So he has returned home. He's estranged from his family. He's returned home, and comes to realize fairly quickly why he's had nothing to do with his family, because his mother is a ghastly hag. And she married her brother-in-law, who then molested the boy. So it's entirely sick and unhealthy. And when he leaves in a bad mood, he leaves with his wife, and they're arguing in the car, and the next thing you know, he's run over a young girl in the middle of the road.
Well, he's hit one.
He's hit a girl.
She ends up in front of the car.
Yeah.
Lying down and not quite dead yet.
Not quite dead.
No, but no cell reception, of course, and it's snowing. It's very cold. And
so he jogs off to
a house that he spies off the road.
And she stays with the poor victim at the car. And once he is inside the house... Oh, hell breaks loose. It becomes a haunted story of haunting.
Yeah, but where did this house come from? What did it have to do with him?
Well, of course, when he bangs on the door, who opens it? His father.
Yeah.
His dead father. And his father says, go away.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Hi, Dad.
And slams the door. Yeah. And what are you going to do? You're going to go away?
Yeah.
No. You're going to say, what the hey? I'm going, what?
Yeah.
I got to see who's in here.
Yeah. So did you like it?
I was confused.
Were you? Yeah. I was reading online about it, and I heard a lot of people saying, I prefer a more sort of straight story than this, because it's rather torturous.
Well, I couldn't figure out why this house had a vendetta against him.
Right.
Where did this house come from?
Right.
I mean, it didn't seem to be the house that he grew up in.
Right.
It's like, why this house?
Yeah.
And that was never explained. At least I didn't get it.
I think to a degree... Norman and crew are claiming that this house is an actual haunted house. in the New England area. So I think they may have had access to this haunted house, of course I don't believe it is, but some people do believe that it's haunted. So, I think they may have said, oh, great, well, let's make a movie in this house.
It cost $22,000 to make the movie.
It's not a big budget
Big
movie.
budget.
Yeah.
I guess the actors actually paid the director to be in it.
To be in it. I quite liked it. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was difficult to follow, but it's maybe a little silly. And I agree with you, Mark. It did have sort of like a why, what the hell.
Yeah.
Except that it's all, as most of these haunted movies.
Well, they have a lot.
It's mostly in his mind. It's him and his wife trying to work out their demons.
And what does his wife have to do with it is the question.
I know. Well,
yeah, it's like
she married the poor bastard.
Yeah, and I thought it was shot well. I thought it was acted well. The interesting kind of story, but it just didn't make sense.
No.
And that was the big failing for me.
Corey Norman's next movie will be better.
Yeah, I think that he has all the skills to make a really good movie. He just has to get the writing a little bit better, a little bit better script.
Yeah, what's what we always say. You got to start with a tremendous script.
But the look and the feel of it was really good.
Yeah.
And it did have some really good imagery in it.
Yep.
But it just didn't make sense.
No. And it is maybe, for people who prefer their horror to be more along slasher lines, stuff like that, this movie is not gory. It's not it's much more psychological.
Yes.
So if you like that kind of movie, I would recommend it. If you're looking for something, with buckets of blood spilling out of people's mouths, maybe not.
And they're easy. I mean, those are just little caplets they chew on.
Yeah.
It's like, it's easy to do.
Okay, our next movie, I have to admit, I haven't finished watching. I just watched the first half of it. Godzilla, 2014 version, directed by Gareth Edwards, written by Dave Callahan and Max Borenstein. Stars Aaron Taylor Johnson as Ford Brody, Bryan Cranston as his dad, Joe Brody, Elizabeth Olsen as Ford's wife, Elle Brody. Elizabeth Olsen doing really well in the horror genre. Ken Watanabe as Dr. Ishiro Serizawa, David Strathairn as Admiral Stentz, and Juliette Binoche as Sandra Brody. That would be Ford's mum, who dies pretty early on in the proceedings.
Yeah, and so does his dad, for that matter.
Oh, don't tell us that, Mark. What the hell? Don't tell us that. And it can't be early on because I've seen half of it.
Oh, have you?
Brian is still running around.
Is he around? Is he still running around? Anyway.
Yeah, watch it.
It seemed early, that's all.
Yeah. Well, probably the best actor in this. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Bryan Cranston's all the way back to Seinfeld, let alone Breaking Bad.
Everything stems from Seinfeld.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, that show was on long enough that it had so many bit parts for actors and recurring characters.
It was 9 years.
Yeah.
Only 9.
Yeah.
Only 9. But Friends was on for 10.
Courtney Cox, before she was on Friends, she was Jerry's girlfriend.
Yeah, well, for a couple episodes.
Just one.
Yeah.
Just one episode.
Was it just one?
Just one, the dry cleaning pancake episode.
Okay, fine. Anyway, getting back to Godzilla.
Yeah, so Mark has seen it all the way through. Did you like it? Was it enjoyable?
I almost fell asleep a couple times.
Wow.
They tried to make it sort of like Independence Day with a giant monster instead of a bunch of aliens. Mm-hmm. They had the military running around doing its thing, and you're trying to figure out, all these different sections of the military attacking these things.
Right.
I just felt it was like, I've seen this.
Formulaic.
It was very formulaic.
Yeah.
It was nothing really new.
They don't bring anything new.
And the monsters.
Yeah.
First of all, Godzilla isn't the main monster in the movie.
Right.
He's somebody else that's kind of like after the main monsters.
Oh, okay.
They've got these two insect things that were very reminiscent of
Mothra.
No, not Mothra, but the small insect bugs in
Cloverfield.
No.
Sorry, Mark.
No, you're making me forget the name. Starship Troopers.
Oh, okay.
The insectoids, the ones that are twice as big as a guy, the ones with a square jaw.
Yeah.
That's what they look like, except for they were humongous.
Right.
Huge.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just kept saying, I know these creatures.
Yeah.
I've seen them before, and they were done a lot better, and they moved a lot faster.
Right. right.
And the main story is that these insect giant creatures, the male and the female, have been resurrected, and they're going to mate.
Right.
And the military want to blow them up.
Yeah.
And they find out that they eat radiation.
Okay.
They need radiation to actually reproduce.
Because the movie begins with hydrogen bomb tests in the South Pacific.
Yeah.
The gigantic U.S. hydrogen bomb tests. Just as it was in the original Godzilla movies.
Yes.
The Japanese
Yes.
Godzilla.
1954.
Yeah, that it's the nuclear testing that has caused this problem.
And I think all Godzilla movies are in that premise as well.
Yeah.
Either one.
You have to have a scientific explanation for where a giant iguana is going to come from.
Well, it could be something that was buried from the dinosaur age.
Yeah,
It could be one of those.
Sure, it could.
Why not?
Maybe in jelly at the bottom of the ocean.
Well, they say that they found billion-year-old spores that were they reactivated.
Okay.
So
Spore and a dinosaur egg are slightly different.
A leap of faith here.
Faith. Yeah.
Anyway,
I pray that they come up with a giant dinosaur.
These two giant insectoids decide that they're going to head for San Francisco to mate, which I'm sure everybody does that at some point.
It's a romantic city.
Exactly, and that's where I want to go to mate as well. And
I left my spores in San Francisco.
And Godzilla, who's been, just sleeping around for eons, has decided, hey, you guys can't wake up. I got to defeat you.
Right.
And Godzilla is after these things, trying to kill them.
Okay.
At the same time, the military is trying to kill it, and they have so much problems with this stupid bomb, this radiation bomb of some sort that they have on this missile.
Right.
And first of all, they were going to try to kill them with it, and then the insectoids steal it, and now they have to try to recover it before it destroys everything. And I'm going, geez, what kind of dumb script is this?
Right. A little bit.
A lot of people didn't like the previous Godzilla.
The
New York.
Broderick.
Yeah, but I liked it because there was some humor in it.
Right.
And I liked the characters in it.
Right.
This movie, I didn't really give a damn about any of the characters in this movie.
I didn't care for the young fellow who Ford Brody character.
Yeah, I couldn't feel any sympathy for the people.
Right.
I felt it was a military exercise.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm watching.
Yeah.
I didn't feel for Godzilla at all.
Right.
I didn't feel for the insectoids.
Right.
I just felt nothing for this movie.
Oh, what a drag.
Even though it looked good. I mean, they spent enough money on it. It's $160 million.
Right.
But I'm going, what a waste of time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather watch Independence Day again, which had, better characters.
That's a fun movie, at least. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. This movie had no humor in it whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And I think for a monster movie, you got to have a little humor.
I would like a little. Yeah.
This one had none, zero.
No. Okay.
And it's like I didn't really give a damn about any of the characters.
Best monster movie I can think of that rung all the right bells for me recently was Pacific Rim.
Right, and speaking of that, I mean they wanted Del Toro to direct this one, but he was busy with Pacific Rim.
Oh, okay.
So they didn't get him. And also Andy Serkis provided some consultation on screen capture for the monsters.
Right. Yeah.
He loves to do that stuff. I guess he's the authority now.
He seems to be the go-to
guy for screen
Yeah.
capture of monsters.
Okay, well that's enough Godzilla. I'm sorry that it's not more fun. We're going back in time to 1985. Written and directed by Larry Cohen. The Stuff.
Now, I've never heard of this movie before.
No, I hadn't heard of it. It was made around the same time that Cohen made the movie Q, which also stars Michael Moriarty, young Michael Moriarty.
Oh, very young.
And he's about 6.5 feet tall, and he weighs about 150 pounds.
A lanky kind of guy.
And he's so sardonic.
He's got that Texas drawl.
Such a smart ass.
Yeah,
so
but
sarcastic.
I enjoyed his performance because it's so different from his later
It's a very,
performances.
very funny movie, I thought. This one has lots of humor in it, as most Larry Cohen movies do. Cohen made It's Alive and stuff like that. You know.
It's very corny stuff,
it is.
But it's always done with humor.
And we got to talk about Q sometime. You probably haven't seen that. But
yes, I have.
The giant,
long time
giant
ago.
Flying serpent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
I remember the posters for that thing.
Yeah, beautiful. Right up in the top of the Chrysler Building in New York. And there's like Quetzalcoatl. That's, it's the great like Aztec god.
Yeah.
And it's living up there. And Michael Moriarty plays a con man who, on the lam from people who, on both sides of the law, who want him dead, discovers this great monstrous god. And he starts feeding it his enemies, tricking them to come up to the top of the Chrysler Building, which nobody ever visits.
No, of course not. I wouldn't want to go there.
He's the only guy who goes up. There's broken windows from where this thing is climbing in and out of the building, and nobody in New York ever notices this enormous thing, big as a 747, living on the top of a skyscraper.
Great monster. Great monster.
So the stuff begins, and I just give you the cast real quickly. We got Michael Moriarty as David Moe Rutherford, and he's sort of a disgraced FBI man.
Yeah.
He's been hired to discredit the company that is distributing the stuff. I'll explain what the stuff is in a second. But also in the movie, Andrea Markovici, Scott Bloom, Garrett Morris plays Chocolate Chip Charlie. He's from the original cast of Saturday Night Live, so it won't mean anything to you kids out there.
I was surprised to see him.
He's so funny.
And he always acts the same.
Oh, he does. He's just a big ham bone. He's always loud and obnoxious.
How he became popular, I'll never know, because...
Well, I hate to say, but he was definitely the token black guy in the original cast.
Yeah.
Unlike most of the original cast who knew each other from Second City or National Lampoon or both, Garrett Morris was hired because he could sing and he could do the black parts.
Yeah.
I think, Nothing against him. I always liked him, but he was on a different level from John Belushi.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd. Who else is in it? Paul Sorvino, Malcolm Gromit, Danny Aiello, and Patrick O'Neill, who has a nice turn as an evil swine. So the idea is...
So these guys are really big actors.
Yeah, good actors.
And this
1985, this is a good cast.
Yeah, this is a great cast. Yeah. And it's like, I was surprised to see all these people in this movie.
Because they're slumming.
Yeah.
They're slumming, but it's a fun ride. So the idea is that some oil workers up in like Alaska or something, they're drilling away, and some old fart worker wandering along, and he sees like a hole in the ground with some white goo bubbling up. So, of course, as soon as you see white goo bubbling out of the ground, the first thing you're going to do is stick your fingers in and then taste it.
Of course.
And he discovers it's delicious. And one of his workmates comes over, and the guy says, "Here," and he shoves his fingers in the other guy's mouth, and now they both think it's delicious. And now we skip ahead a few months, and there's a big company that's distributing the stuff.
Yeah.
And Andrea Markovici's character she's a marketer, and she's been doing the PR to sell this stuff. It has fewer calories than ice cream. It's more delicious than ice cream.
Yeah.
Everybody who tries it loves it.
It's all natural ingredients.
Yes, yeah. But like the formula for Coca-Cola or KFC, the company doesn't have to say exactly what it's composed of.
And it
has living organisms in it.
Yes.
Mysterious living organisms.
But so does yogurt.
Right. So,
And I love the fact that nobody knows what it is.
No.
Even the higher ups, they say, we don't know what it is.
Those who know and might have done something have been killed. and Michael Moriarty's character, Mo, he's been hired by a consortium of ice cream manufacturers to do some industrial espionage. He's got to find out what this stuff is exactly for the ice cream guys.
He teams up with this kid.
Whose
family is hooked on this stuff.
Right.
That's all they eat is this stuff.
Scott Bloom plays Jason.
I love the fact that every time you go in the kitchen, it's just this pile of containers. And in the fridge and in the cupboards, it's everywhere. And there's nothing else.
The garage, there's just boxes and crates of this stuff.
And everybody's just consuming this stuff. And you find out, this stuff is
not good for you.
Not good for you. It's sort of I don't know what you would call it. It's not extraterrestrial, but it is a being of some sort.
It is an alien thing, yeah.
It takes over people's bodies.
It doesn't do a body good.
No. Not like they claim milk is doing.
Yeah. It's very funny. It's played entirely tongue-in-cheek, but it's got lots of action. And it's intentionally silly, but it still worked for me. I thought it was very
and I love the fact that through their investigations, they go to see where it comes from, the plants where they process it and where they don't really process it.
No, they just put it into buckets.
They just put it into buckets and put it in boxes and ship it out.
Truck it out, yeah.
They go to all these different places, and at some point, the goo starts moving around. and it starts sliding up walls and consuming people.
Yes, it will force itself into people.
Yeah. It's really well done. It's like watching melted marshmallows.
Yeah, marshmallow sauce is what I thought.
And running around. Yeah. And the thing is, the kid at one point was trying to fool his family into thinking that he was eating the stuff. Right. And what was he eating? Shaving cream.
Yeah.
I'd rather eat this stuff.
Yeah. He refuses to start eating it because...
You can see that something's wrong with his family.
He opens the fridge door and there's a container of it and he sees it like wandering around inside the refrigerator. And he can't convince his folks, but his folks are already hooked on the stuff. So
once you've eaten it, you have a craving for it.
Well, it's starting to take you over.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah,
except
for not as subtle.
Yeah, really. Yeah, the pod people subtlety.
Because you see them just gorging themselves on this stuff. Not subtle at all.
No. But funny. Another very good movie from Larry Cohen, who's still around, still making movies.
Isn't he the father of the Coen brothers?
Oh, different spelling, but
they're all the same race anyway.
Yeah. Wow! Mark!
Did I just say that?
Oh, I apologize to everyone. As John Cleese says in The Meaning of Life, I had no idea we had a racist here. Good God. All right. Well, on that note, let's move on to another movie. This one undoubtedly in a part of the world with a lot of racists. This is a 1976 movie, so we continue to travel back in time.
Time machine.
Now, this movie is being remade even as we speak. It's titled The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Directed by Charles B. Pierce, written by Earl E. Smith. Stars Ben Johnson as Captain J.D. Morales, Andrew Prine as Deputy Norman Ramsey, Dawn Wells, Marianne from
I was surprised to see her.
Very small part, but they feature her in the credits.
1.5 days work for her.
Yeah. She plays Helen Reed. Jimmy Clem plays Sergeant Griffin. Charles B. Pierce, who is the director, plays the goofball patrolman A.C. Benson. And Early Smith, the writer, also has a role. He plays Dr. Kress. So this movie is based on the true story of a serial killer who went around murdering young lovers in Texarkana on the Texas-Arkansas border.
It was called the Texarkana Moonlight Murders.
Yeah. This maniac was really doing this.
Yeah, he ended up murdering 5 people altogether and hurting quite a few.
Attacking several others who were able to give good descriptions of him and so on, but he was never caught. He's one of these serial killers who either moved or just stopped.
Or was penalized with another crime.
Yeah. You never know. He
could have been in jail.
But certainly he was, whoever the murderer was never caught and charged with these
You
murders.
would think that with forensic evidence now, they could go back, unless they kept none of it, back in the 40s, and maybe they didn't. They probably didn't keep any forensic evidence. So.
I'm not sure that...
I mean, because you see the guy...
Anyway, Mark, you'd have to have, a suspect anyway. Because what's the point of checking forensic
Well, that's
evidence?
True. Yeah, you wouldn't have anything to compare it to.
No. You have to have a suspect.
But you could at least tell if they were all done by the same person.
See, to me, the great advantage... Yeah, that's true. But if there isn't blood or semen from the maniac...
Well, he bit them.
Did he bite some of them?
Well, he was eating them. Yeah. He was
Is this the real guy? Because in the movie, it's not that gross.
In the movie, no. They said they were bites all over the bodies and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So this being a 1976 movie, you can't say that it's the first of these sort of serial killer movies, but it's very definitely early in the genre, and it was going to become a much more popular genre.
I like the fact that this is a 76 movie about 1946, so it's a period piece that was made a long time ago.
Right. Both times.
And I love the cars.
Yeah.
And the look, it was great. They really captured this town. And they say that even in the 70s, the town hadn't changed much since the 40s. So pretty much looks... I'm sure it's changed drastically since then.
I just watched The Last Picture Show, also with Ben Johnson, and that's a wonderful movie from the 70s about a town in the 50s, a little Texas town, and how it shuts down, it's dying. Wonderful movie, but Ben Johnson, he's a good actor, but I have to say that nobody in the town that dreaded Sundown does a particularly great job. It's a pretty thin little movie.
There's a narrator narrating, obviously.
Like the voice of doom.
Yeah, the narrator's telling you little things about the incidents and things like that.
As if it's sort of like the TV show Dragnet from the 60s.
Sort of, yeah.
True crime.
Maybe they got it from that, I don't know.
Oh, it's an easy device.
Yeah, it is a very easy device. It's almost like they got a bunch of little vignettes and they kind of tied it all together with a narrator.
Right.
Because the storyline really didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And it doesn't end anywhere. Yeah. They just kind of said, well, we never caught the guy.
Yeah. A better movie from the 70s along similar lines is the Boston Strangler with Tony Curtis and Henry Fonda, George Kennedy. A lot of good actors in that. And it's, I don't have off the top of my head the exact year, but it's mid-70s and much more professional, and also, to my way of thinking, much more interesting movie because it really delves more into the perpetrator.
Right.
We don't meet the Strangler face to face, Tony Curtis' character, until about halfway through the movie. But when we do, we get to sort of find out what his problems are.
Right.
And they are many. In this movie, all we have is a guy with a bag on his head. We never find out who he is because he was never caught, I guess.
And I like the fact that at the end, the last clip of him, they're chasing him. First of all, he wasn't doing anything.
Right.
He was just kind of lounging around in a field with this stupid mask on.
Really just a way to try and tie the movie together.
Yeah, I mean, I just went, what the hey?
Yeah.
I mean, he parked in broad daylight. Yeah. They figured this was his car. They go chase him, and he's got his mask on, and there was no reason for him to have it on.
Yeah, I know. It's not a great movie, but I don't know. It was a good afternoon's watch anyway. So if you're a fan of the genre, if you want to see, a movie that has some historical significance as far as who was predecessor to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that sort of thing, this guy with the bag on his face,
he looks like a scarecrow, kind of. Yeah. In the way he was puffing. Puff. And it would blow out the mask and in the mask. There wasn't even a hole where the mouth was.
But he kills at one point, or tied to a tree, a young woman who's a trombone player.
Yeah.
And he ties his knife to the end of the trombone and then toot, toot, and he's stabbing her as he's tootling along on the trombone.
And
and I don't even think it's supposed to be funny. It's just bizarre.
And they have sort of a psychologist come in at one point, and the Texas Ranger, the main guy on the police force,
Ben Johnson's character,
he's asking him, is this guy crazy?
Yeah.
It's like, he's insane, all right. And you see the guy's feet on the guy sitting in the next table of the cafe.
Right. It's him
listening to what they're saying. It's like, no wonder they didn't catch him. They're talking about it in a public place where everyone can hear what's going on.
They're not the smartest cops in the world. I think, though, when you consider the 40s, it's a long time ago, and maniacs like this were not the common knowledge that they are today.
True.
They simply weren't forensics and psychology and so on. So they're coming from a very naive perspective compared to, police today or even movie watchers today.
Well, of course, yeah.
So everything that they do in this movie, you smack your head and go, "Geez, don't you guys know anything?" Well, they didn't.
Yeah,
they were making it up as they went along.
And the fact that somebody's going around killing people at lovers' lanes and things like that, or make-out point, and the kids still go.
Yeah,
they still go.
No.
It's like, let's
teenagers.
Yeah, they have to have their fix.
There's a funny scene where this young man argues his pretty young girlfriend into parking at least in the city.
Yeah.
Not out in the country where it's dangerous. And they're parked there, and then you see the two of them. and he's leaning against her with his head on her upper chest. And
that's it.
Where's the kissing? Where's the smooching? Where's the groping?
And she's going, "What time is it?" He says, 3:00. And he says, "Well, I think I better get home now." And they're not doing anything. No. They're just sitting there. "Oh, 5 more minutes, please, 5 more minutes." What are you doing? Nothing.
Yeah.
Why does he want to sit there for 5?
He's not even like kissing her shoulder.
Nothing. He's just kind of like leaning against her. And at the beginning of the movie, the
sexy stuff.
The first couple that get attacked, he's got his head in her lap.
Yeah.
Just lying there listening to the music.
Yeah.
And I'm going, what is this?
Very weird, isn't it? It's like the director really didn't have any clue how to handle, even the hint of sex.
Yeah. And I'm sure that even back in the 40s, they made out like that.
I'm pretty sure people were being born somewhere. This movie, really, the story has more in common with Zodiac, the Zodiac killer in San Francisco back in the 60s.
Right.
Which was made into a movie with Gyllenhaal a few years ago.
And I'm kind of wondering if there was an influx in these types of murders after the soldiers got back from the war.
Oh, that's a sad, scary thought.
Yeah, it's just something that occurred to me because this happened in
damaged people and not getting any psychiatric.
Yeah, exactly. This happened in 46, which is right after the end of the war, and they mentioned that the boys were coming home from war and they wanted to have families and things like that. Right. But yeah, you could imagine that some people that went through some really scary crap and saw terrible things
and got no help
would come home psychologically damaged.
It's bad enough today. I mean, soldiers come home in Canada as well as the U.S. And I'm sure in Britain, and they go home, and if they don't get
counseling,
psychological help, suicides are just piling up. It's disgusting. Cost of these useless wars.
Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering if that comes into play. They never go there.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that it had some effect on.
Yeah. So it's a really naive movie, and there's certainly plenty of gore in it, although it's mostly off screen. And I hated to see Marianne by the farm. She's my favorite.
I mean, has she done anything else other than Gilligan's Island and this? I mean, I was shocked to see her there, and she looks sort of older.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not
10 years older.
Yeah. And
she's still around. She's still rocking the Marianne thing at
conventions.
Conventions and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. Good for her. Hey, Dawn. Okay, let's do one more movie this episode. We're giving you 6 movies today and the British TV show. 2011 movie, Sector 7, directed by Ji Hoon Kim, written by Ji Gyun Yun. It stars Ji Won Ha and Sung Ki An, and that's all the Korean names I wrote down because
they're Korean.
They're Korean, and I don't know any of these actors. And now I believe this is the same director who made that Korean creature feature a couple of years ago. It was a lot more fun than this one.
I don't. Well, you can give your opinion, but I liked it.
Okay, Mark liked Sector 7 a lot more than I did.
I thought it was really silly.
Yes. The idea is that this is a deep ocean oil drilling platform, and this Korean crew is desperate to find oil and, make Korea into an oil-rich nation. Okay, so right off the bat, that all sounds pretty silly. But it's just one stupidity piled on another. I've never seen such a bunch of idiots. And they run around, and the director has deliberately set his camera shots so that it looks like manga. It'd be like a shot of the main woman who's like the heroine and her boyfriend, and the two of them will be running down a corridor, and you can practically see the gigantic globs of sweat springing off their brows the way you do in Japanese manga, and the expressions on their faces, it's just cartoonish.
Anyway, I watched it in 3D.
Oh, okay.
And I thought it looked great in 3D.
Okay.
And sometimes it does enhance it. The whole idea of running around a platform with a motorcycle, racing
your boyfriend.
Yeah, that was fun.
Right.
Well, the monster shows up, and it's very quickly determined that there is a monster aboard.
Big monster.
And it looks good.
But
I thought
it's the most unformed, big, bulky monster I've seen in a long time. It has sort of like backwards flippers on the front, like a walrus or a seal.
Yeah.
Like it walks around on these flippers. And it seems to be able to withstand falls onto metal platforms from a very great height. And it just sort of shakes its big ugly head and, and then the fight is on again. It's composed, as are its little children, composed of some sort of flammable material.
Yeah. It's oil.
Well, whether
it came up from the oil hole.
It's feeding on oil or it's
whatever.
Composed of oil or it is. I have no idea. But I just have to say this is one of the silliest movies I've seen in a long time.
When I told you to watch it, I told you the movie Aliens rewritten for an oil rig instead of a spaceship. Yeah, because they discover the alien, it starts picking them off one at a time.
But they're so...
and then at the end, at the very end, which I thought was the funniest thing, is they got this $1 billion oil rig, right?
Right.
And they have a self-destruct button.
Right.
Why would you build a self-destruct button on an oil rig?
Yeah.
When they brought that out, I went, whoa!
Yeah.
What the hell?
Well, that's stupidity right up there with the open all the doors button.
Yeah,
in Cabin in the Woods.
Exactly.
You've got thousands of horrifically true mythical monsters all locked in their individual lucite cages, and you've got a button in the center of the facility that opens all the doors all at once. I guess in case there's a fire and you have to rescue all the monsters.
I kind of try to imagine what would possess you to want to destroy an oil
rig. Yeah.
What kind of emergency?
Yeah.
What kind of emergency would constitute the destruction of $1 billion worth of equipment?
It's just so stupid.
Especially when you didn't know there was going to be a monster.
I couldn't stand the fact that they're all so ridiculous and cartoony. Now the version I saw, the English subtitles were absolutely not English. Like they were just a mishmash. I think it may have been a machine translation. It was not
because I didn't find that the translation on mine was better because I actually downloaded the translation from the subtitle site when I looked at it.
This was hard copied onto the video,
and
it was just terrible because of that. When English is translated badly, I'm sure English is the only one I can read. When any language, I'm sure, is translated into another language, you lose a lot of the finesse unless it's done very carefully and with a lot of skill. And all these Korean workers, they all come across as childish, as ignorant. The girl, certainly the main character, comes across as just like this pouty little bitch. Just wanted to slap her.
Well,
half
see,
the time.
I didn't find that. So obviously your translation was poor.
But she sure does a lot of like pouting and acting cutesy for the camera. I just hate that Korean and Japanese stuff. They shovel cute like it's coal onto a ugly
barbecue
fire. It's just horrible. I can't stand cute.
Obviously not.
No.
I enjoyed it. It was a really fluffy kind of movie, but it had some great special effects.
Right.
And I didn't really mind them destroying the oil rig.
I wish they destroyed it at the very beginning.
So watch it.
Yeah.
Sector 7. A big thumbs up from me.
All right. Big deformed thumbs up from Mark. So we'll just quickly recount Oculus. I liked that one a lot more than Mark did, but Mark would still recommend it, I think.
Yeah.
The Hanover House. I'd recommend it. It's a thoughtful movie, not an action movie.
I thought it looked good. but like I said, it just didn't make sense.
Okay. Godzilla, would you recommend it? Boy.
You know, I'm iffy on it. I really am.
Okay.
I mean, it isn't a must-see.
Right.
It's a fun movie.
Right. See it on
But it's not even fun in that there's no humor.
See it on video.
Yeah, I'd say see it on video.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, Bryan Cranston is more or less wasted.
Yeah.
What I saw the first half, I would say that. The Stuff, I wholeheartedly recommend.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Good fun.
It's corny. If you like corn, this is it.
And Michael Moriarty got kind of squirrely in later years, whatever his addictive qualities were. But he's so funny in this. Him and Larry Cohen make a great team. The Town That Dreaded Sundown, interesting as early sort of, the masked maniac, Michael Myers sort of thing, but tame by today's standards.
Yeah. It was mostly just a lot of screaming.
Yeah. Yes.
A lot of screaming.
Yeah, and arguably amateurish. I'll be interested to see what the remake is.
I'm sure it'll be a lot different.
Well, the remake, from what I read, is going to be about somebody who's mimicking the crimes like 50 years after the fact.
Oh.
So it is going to be a lot different. And finally, Sector 7. Mark liked it. I thought it was terrible.
Yeah, well, there you go.
There you go.
I mean, I liked it in a comical way.
Right.
And in that it's just silly.
Good.
And it looks great in 3D. So if you can see the 3D version, see the 3D version.
I did not see it in 3D. All right, folks, so that's it. We're going to wrap up this episode. We'll be back next week with reviews of The Sacrament, writer-director Ty West's latest movie. Terrific movie. Until then, so long from Jerry.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that balcony's closed.